Hi, today I prepared for you two multiple choice questions, and this both questions is about population genetics. So I recommend you to stop video here, try to solve each problem, and when you would be ready, you can run video again, and you can compare your answer with my answer and explanation. So here's the first problem. Population is 70% homozygous dominant, 28% heterozygous, and 2% is homozygous recessive. The frequency of the dominant allele is, and here is the four answers that you may choose from. And if you don't know which answer to choose, here is my explanation. So first of all, when we have two alleles, one would be dominant, another one recessive. These two alleles may form in diploid organism three different genotypes. One would be homozygous dominant, another one would be heterozygous, and the last one would be homozygous recessive. And in our example, we have frequency for the homozygous dominant 70%, and we have frequency for the heterozygous 28%, and frequency for the homozygous recessive 2%. And always when we add all the numbers, when we work not with real numbers of the, for example, individuals, but with frequencies, when we add all the frequencies in the population, we should get 100% or 1 if we work on the scale between 0 and 1. If we work on the scale between 0 and 100%, our answer would be between 0 and 100 for each frequency, but the total number should be 100% or 1. So as long as we in this example work with percentages, so when we add all the percentages here, the total number should equal to 100%. So now we have to find frequency of the dominant allele. So as you see, we have three genotypes here, but only two alleles, that is dominant and recessive. And now we have to find frequency of dominant allele that is present in homozygous dominant form and in heterozygous form. So it's easy to say that here is 70%, and here, as you see, half of the alleles would be dominant and half would be recessive. So we have to divide this number by 2, and this gives us 14% would be dominant allele E, and 14% would be dominant recessive allele small e. So what we do, we have to add 70% plus 14, that is going to be dominant allele E, plus 14%, that is going to be recessive allele E, plus 2%. So once again, if we add all these numbers, we are going to get 100%, but now we can find the frequency of the dominant allele, that is going to be here, and this is going to be equal to 84%. And we have such an answer. This is answer A. This is going to be on the different scale, on the scale between 0 and 1. So we just have to divide this number 84% by 100, and this is how we get this number here. And if we need answer as a percentage, we just have to multiply this number by 100, or move this decimal point 2 places to the right. So once again, this is represent two scales, so we can have numbers between 0 and 100% and between 0 and 1. And it's very easy to convert one scale into another one, whether we have to divide by 100 or whether we have to multiply by 100 in order to convert from one scale to another one. So now we can move to the second question. One of the conditions for maintenance of the Hardy Weinberg equilibrium is that, and here is the four answers. Answer A: there can be no matings between organisms of identical genotypes. There can be no selection. Answer C: 100% of the population must be able to breed. And answer D: all of this. So I can cross out answer D. Not all these answers are correct. And let's start with answer A. There can be no matings between organisms of identical genotypes. And imagine that once again, when we have three genotypes, homozygous dominant, heterozygous, plus homozygous recessive genotype, and this is going to be gene pool. So three genotypes all together, if we add up them, going to equal to 100%, and this is going to be our gene pool. And of course, some of this genotype would mate with its genotype, and also can mate with this genotype, and this genotype can mate with itself, as long as homozygous dominant, and can so any genotype can mate freely within a population, and this is one of the rules of the Hardy Weinberg. So there shouldn't be any limitation on the matings between all these genotypes, and this is how equilibrium maintained in this society, in this gene pool. So we have to cross out this answer. So there can be any combinations of matings. And answer C: 100% of the population must be able to breed. And this is also not true, because if we have a large population, for example, 100,000 individuals, of course, not all the individuals would be able to breed. Some of them can be very young, and some of them can be too old, and some of them might also not participate in breeding, but others may participate in breeding and produce more progeny than the rest. So we call this effective population size. An effective population size only considers those individuals that mate, and usually this number is not equal to population census. So, but if our population is large enough, this is normal, and this wouldn't affect Hardy Weinberg equilibrium. And in small population, this of course would affect. For example, if we have 100 individuals, and effective population size, for example, if would be just 20 individuals, of course this would greatly affect Hardy Weinberg equilibrium. So, but if the large size, this wouldn't have effect. So we cannot consider answer C as correct. So we have to cross out this answer, and we left with only one answer. There can be no selection, and this is one of the conditions that society that is in Hardy Weinberg equilibrium should meet. So, for example, there shouldn't be any selection if we have, for example, incomplete dominance. So these all three genotypes would represent three different phenotypes. And if, for example, this would be black, this white, and this gray, and if black would prefer to mate with each other or with gray, for example, this of course would affect number and frequency of the homozygous recessive and recessive allele in such gene pool, and after certain number of generation, dominant allele can be fixed, meaning that recessive allele would be lost from such population. So there shouldn't be any breeding selection, and all the selection coefficient for each genotype should be the same. For example, if selection or we can say fitness of these genotypes would be 1, and this would be 0.1, that means that there are going to be selection against this genotype, and once again this would lead that after certain number of generations dominant allele A would be the only allele left. So our answer would be B. There shouldn't be selection, no matter if the population large or small. And this is all for today. Thank you for attention. Please subscribe for my new videos that I post almost every day. Thumbs up if you like this video. See you next video. Goodbye.